Chapter 326. Come over here. Is it you? Almost all the prisoners recognized the boy in front of them. Just a day ago, some of them had called him Boss Lin, serving him food and handing him towels with deference. Little sickly brat, do you want to stop us? Do you think you're still the boss here? One of the prisoners sneered. If you don't want to die, get out of the way. Otherwise, don't blame me for turning you into minced meat. Why waste words with him? He's just a little kid who really thinks he matters. Just kill him. Kill. The prisoner's footsteps only hesitated for a moment before they surged toward the heavy black door, which was also where Lin Chia stood, their faces twisted with malice, showing no hint of the murderous intent they harbored. Among those making the most noise, Lin Chia had a deep impression of a few. Back when they were in the asylum, they had been the most flattering toward him. Now their faces changed so quickly that Lin Chia wasn't surprised. These people were, after all, a bunch of despicable criminals, the best at shifting with the wind and kicking someone when they were down. When you were strong, they naturally wouldn't dare to have any thoughts about you, hiding their claws and putting on smiles, serving you as if you were their own father. But once they regained the upper hand, their vicious true colors would show. From the very beginning, Lin Chia hadn't taken these people to heart. In the swirling dust, Lin Chia's eyes narrowed slightly. The brilliant gold in his left eye rapidly dimmed, replaced by an inky blackness. Under the dim sky, two starkly different colors, one gold and one black, emerged in his gaze. He calmly watched the crazed prisoners charging at him, and his pupils suddenly constricted. Buzz. An invisible aura rapidly expanded from Lin Chia's center. The pressure of two divine beings surged forth through Lin Chia's eyes, like a rushing river bursting forth in an instant. All the prisoners rushing toward Lin Chia felt their hearts constrict as an unprecedented sense of terror locked onto them. The hairs on their bodies stood on end, and the immense pressure caused some of the lower-ranked prisoners to collapse directly to the ground. Everyone stopped in unison, their faces pale as they stared at Lin Chia, their eyes filled with fear and confusion. As the light in Lin Chia's eyes faded, he scanned the crowd one by one, then slowly extended his hands. Two brilliant directional summoning arrays appeared in his palms. In the next moment, two sheathed straight swords appeared in Lin Chia's hands. Lin Chia gripped the hilt and suddenly exerted force. Clay! The twin swords were drawn. The deep blue blades sliced through the dim sky, emitting a faint hum. Lin Chia stood before the heavy black door, wielding the twin swords, exuding a powerful sense of oppression. Lin Chia looked down at the two familiar straight swords in his hands, a slight smile curling at the corners of his mouth. Both swords bore inscriptions. The one in his left hand was engraved with Lin Chia, while the one in his right hand was inscribed with Zhao Kongcheng. He hadn't guessed wrong. Unlike those prisoners, he had entered the asylum as a mental patient, so his gear had been temporarily stored somewhere in the Sunshine Mental Hospital. This place wasn't far from the hospital and was still within the effective range of the directional summoning array, allowing him to summon them. These two swords had been sealed in the hospital's warehouse for a year. Even though the surface of the sheaths was covered in dust, the moment they were drawn, their sharpness remained undiminished. The blades trembled, emitting a faint hum as if they were rejoicing. Lin Chia raised his head, his mismatched pupils calmly sweeping over the terrified crowd, slowly lifting the straight sword in his right hand and spoke. Guardian Lin Chia is here. Who dares to fight? The same words were spoken by Lin Chia in a calm tone, lacking the imposing presence of Wang Lu, yet this indifferent tone sent chills down the spines of the dozens of prisoners. No one provoked him, no one mocked him, and for a moment no one dared to step forward. The terrifying divine might left an unprecedented shadow in their hearts, so much so that no one had yet recovered from it. They looked at Lin Chia, who stood guard at the door, their eyes filled with hesitation. At that moment, another boy in black and white prison garb walked up to Lin Chia, adjusting his glasses, and reached out to grasp the air. In the next moment, a frost-covered long sword materialized in his hand. He smiled as he scanned the crowd, slowly speaking, "Whoever hurts him I will kill." As tensions rose, a blinding golden light shot toward them from a distance, accompanied by two figures squeezed together, charging straight for the main door. Ha ha ha. Seven Knight, I finally found you. The chubby boy riding the golden flying sword spotted Lin Chia and immediately burst into laughter, excitedly waving at him. The sudden appearance of this bizarre duo instantly captured everyone's attention. Under the strange gazes of the crowd, Chao Yuan's mouth twitched slightly as he kicked Bai Li Pangpang in the rear, sending him tumbling off the golden flying sword. He then floated down holding his straight sword. Ah! With a scream, Bai Li Pangpang fell to the ground, bouncing back up like a ball, rolling and scrambling to Lin Chia's side. Chao Yuan, Pangpang, what are you doing here? Lin Chia asked in astonishment upon seeing the two. Bai Li Pangpang stopped in front of Lin Chia, dusting off his backside, straightening up and grinning. I heard your virtue was in danger, so I rushed over to save you. How's that? Pretty good, right? Lin Chia. I'm just here for treatment. How is my virtue in danger? Chao Yuan, holding his sword, silently walked over to Lin Chia's side and rolled his eyes at Bai Li Pangpang. I was worried you'd be in danger in the asylum, so I thought I'd come to rescue you. If you weren't here, this fat idiot would have caused a scene. Chao Yuan spoke slowly. Lin Chia stared blankly at the two, then turned to look at An Qingyu. For a moment he didn't know what to say. Because they were worried for his safety, one of them willingly went to prison and the other two risked their lives to break him out. Such friends, most people would be lucky to have even one in a lifetime. And he had 3 such friends, or brothers. For the first time Lin Chia felt like a lucky person. He glanced at the 3 of them, gratitude filling his eyes. 1,000 words gathered at his lips but turned into just 2 words, thank you. An Qingyu smiled, Chao Yuan smiled, and Bai Li Pangpang also smiled. Bai Li Pangpang turned to the 4 or 5 dozen prisoners standing before them and asked, what step are we at now? Lin Chia pondered for a moment. Threatening them? Threatening? That's my specialty. Bai Li Pangpang grinned, puffing out his chest as he looked at the prisoners, shouting loudly. Bai Li Pangya is here, you all? Come over. Chapter 327, Reuniting Forces. A group of young punks dares to show off their heroics here? A prisoner with a sinister face squinted his eyes and coldly spoke. So what if they are night watchers? I've killed plenty of night watchers in my life. As he finished speaking, a black whirlwind surged around him and countless wails of despair erupted from the wind, sending chills down the listeners' spines. At the same time, an overwhelming pressure akin to that of the sea realm radiated from his body. The faces of the surrounding prisoners showed surprise, their eyes filled with joy and a hint of fear. Under the oppression of the town's monument, he could wield such formidable power, indicating that he was a strong man of the sea realm himself. The fact that he had held back until now clearly meant he was ready to get serious. After the sinister man made his move, 2 more waves of energy equally powerful were released by other prisoners. At this critical moment, anyone who tried to hide their strength would be truly foolish. The appearance of these 3 individuals instantly boosted the confidence of the other prisoners. As the black whirlwind of vengeful spirits howled, everyone instinctively followed suit, charging fiercely toward the heavy black door. A vast array of forbidden powers surged forth, taking on various forms, rushing forward like a deadly, colorful giant python, filled with murderous intent. Before the black door, the howling dark wind whipped the clothes of 4 youths, but beneath this terrifying ocean of forbidden powers, they stood firm like rocks. Chao Yuan calmly turned his head to look at Lin Chia beside him. Chia. Have we killed them all? Lin Chia glanced around and replied nonchalantly, the ones blocking our way, we've killed them all, right? Good. Chao Yuan nodded, not saying a word more. He silently extended his right hand and rested it on the hilt of his straight sword. He drew the sword half an inch. A chilling blade light shimmered in his palm, and then black malevolent energy surged like a raging fire pillar, shooting into the sky. The pitch-black malevolent flames ignited from every inch of Chao Yuan's skin, instantly burning his upper garment to ashes, intertwining and gradually solidifying into a bizarre malevolent aura. Chao Yuan, resembling both man and demon, grinned widely, and his eerie laughter suddenly echoed before the door. He looked up sharply at the rushing prisoners, his crimson eyes filled with a fierce killing intent. This soaring malevolent energy made all the prisoners' hearts tremble slightly. Whoosh! Madman Chao Yuan bent down, gripping the straight sword at his waist. He stomped the ground fiercely, and his figure vanished in an instant, leaving only a wisp of malevolent flame burning in the air. A massive black blade light effortlessly sliced through the dark wind. Countless vengeful spirits that touched Chao Yuan's malevolent energy were instantly incinerated. He charged straight into the crowd of prisoners like a beast of slaughter. Malevolent energy surged, blade lights erupted and blood flowed freely. Lin Chia watched this scene, surprise flickering in his eyes. He could clearly feel that the malevolent energy surrounding Chao Yuan was many times more powerful than it had been a year ago. Even he could sense a tremendous pressure. There was no doubt that Chao Yuan had stepped into the river realm. Chao thief! Daring to steal my thunder! Bai Li Pangpang cursed as he watched Chao Yuan's back, hurriedly reaching into his pocket to pull out a series of forbidden items. He donned a monocle, eye of true sight, wielded a silver longsword, one transforms into 3,000 in his left hand, a withered leaf broom, thunderstorm, in his right, wore a string of prayer beads, Yen Chan, around his neck and stepped on a golden flying sword, Yao Guang. 5 colors of light radiated from Bai Li Pangpang, dazzling to the point that people couldn't open their eyes, truly embodying what it meant to be extravagantly wealthy. Here I come. Bai Li Pangpang soared into the sky on Yao Guang, lightly waving the long sword in his left hand, causing a rain of swords to fall from above, instantly throwing the crowd into chaos. Lin Chia turned his head and saw Qingyu staring intently at the rampaging madman Chao Yuan, her eyes filled with excitement and curiosity. Are they your friends? Lin Chia nodded yes. Can I dissect them? Oh. Lin Chia's mouth twitched slightly. Qingyu sighed in disappointment, her face filled with loss. If not, then it can't be helped. Qingyu shook her head, extending her right index finger. Numerous invisible threads surged from her fingertip, weaving into a sharp net of threads before the door. Then, gripping her frost longsword, she swiftly charged into the crowd of prisoners. Lin Chia's eyes narrowed slightly, the darkness around him growing denser. He released his grip on the straight sword, and 2 straight swords automatically floated in the darkness, vibrating at high frequency. He flicked his fingertip and one of the straight swords shot out with a whoosh, instantly piercing the chest of an unsuspecting prisoner. A magical array of light flashed at the hilt, and Lin Chia's figure appeared out of thin air. Reverse summoning. He yanked the straight sword from the prisoner's chest, the splattered blood staining the night beneath his feet. After killing a prisoner in an instant, Lin Chia vanished into the darkness, moving like a ghost across the battlefield, while another straight sword rapidly circled around him, ready to strike or reverse summon at any moment. During his time locked in the mental hospital, Lin Chia had been contemplating how to escape and researching new combat methods. The forbidden powers on him were too numerous and chaotic. He needed extensive simulation and practice to integrate them into a unique combat system of his own. Lin Chia swung his sword and killed 2 more prisoners. Just as he was about to slip into the darkness, an inexplicable aura suddenly clung to him. Lin Chia looked down and saw his body bizarrely sliced into 3 segments as if cut in half. His legs, torso and head gradually separated, yet no blood flowed and he felt no pain. Instead, a faint gray light emanated from the surface of his severed body. Soon more and more parts began to separate, his chest cavity, abdomen, knees, arms, wrist. Lin Chia was sliced into dozens of segments from head to toe, as if by an invisible long knife. It wasn't a slash. It was a control-type forbidden power. Even witnessing his own dismemberment, Lin Chia remained calm. His mind raced, considering the most likely scenario. The immortal realm was always covering the surroundings. Absolutely no one could strike him under such circumstances. Moreover, this was merely a physical separation. He could still feel the presence of his limbs, but his control over his body was rapidly diminishing as the number of segments increased. Someone was secretly using some mysterious forbidden power against him? Lin Chia's gaze quickly scanned his surroundings. Chapter 328. All are killers. They were facing 40 to 50 prisoners, each possessing forbidden ruins. These forbidden ruins, with their intricate designs, were impossible to completely evade. During the battle, it was inevitable that someone would be unexpectedly controlled by these strange forbidden ruins. After all, this was a battle involving many opponents. Lin Chia quickly locked onto his target. About 100 meters away in the corner of a wall, a dwarf prisoner barely 1 meter tall, was hiding there, sneering while gesturing with his hands in the air, a faint gray light shimmering between his palms. Each time his hands fell, a segment of Lin Chia's body was severed, and at the same time his control over his body was rapidly diminishing. At this moment, Lin Chia felt as if his body was paralyzed. Even holding a knife was somewhat difficult. His brow furrowed, and the two straight knives around him instantly flew out, piercing directly toward the dwarf prisoner in the corner. Since it was that dwarf causing trouble, killing him would naturally restore everything to normal. In such a chaotic battlefield, if he continued to lose control over his body, it would only lead to death. However, it wasn't just the dwarf who had his sights set on Lin Chia. Before the two straight knives could reach the dwarf, they seemed to embed themselves in the air as if they had struck a wall, unable to advance even an inch. Lin Chia turned to look and saw a one-armed man not far away extending his arm, creating an invisible cage around Lin Chia. At that moment, Lin Chia seemed to sense something. He moved his body, which had been cut into several pieces, slightly forward. The next moment, a massive figure crashed down onto the ground where he had been standing. Boom! As debris flew and dust swirled, a giant figure, half man and half wolf, slowly stood up. It was nearly 3 meters tall, with deep brown fur standing upright like steel needles, and its cold eyes fixed on the severed Lin Chia. It let out a low growl, raised its thick arms, and its sharp claws glinted with a chilling light as they swung violently toward Lin Chia. If that claw hit, it wouldn't just be a matter of being severed by forbidden ruins. The entire person would be torn to shreds in an instant. The deadly trap set for Lin Chia had finally reached its lethal moment. Just when everyone thought he was doomed, a hint of mockery flashed in Lin Chia's eyes. A blinding magical light erupted around him, and in the next instant his body, which had been cut into pieces, transformed into a red-haired woman wearing a blue caregiver uniform. Transformation magic. 004 Caregiver Flame Pulse Earth Dragon Hong Yen. Transformed into Hong Yen, Lin Chia completely shed the negative state of being cut into pieces. At the moment the wolf's claw was about to fall, Hong Yen raised her fair arms sharply, transforming them into a pair of crimson dragon claws that clashed with the wolf's claws. Bang! A powerful whirlwind erupted from the two, causing the werewolf to stagger back, its hands numb from the impact. Before it could regain its senses, Hong Yen opened her mouth wide, and a torrent of blazing dragon breath began to gather in front of her. The werewolf's pupils suddenly constricted. What kind of monster is this? Boom! The dragon breath completely engulfed the werewolf, even pulling several nearby prisoners into the flames. Although Lin Chia in his current form couldn't perfectly transform into the Sea Realm's Hong Yen and unleash the true power of dragon breath, it was more than enough to deal with this group of River Realm prisoners. Once again, magical light burst forth from Hong Yen, and she transformed back into the severed Lin Chia. While transforming into the Flame Pulse Earth Dragon was indeed powerful, the problem was that after transforming, Lin Chia could no longer use his original Forbidden Ruins. This meant that to use other Forbidden Ruins he had to revert to being Lin Chia. After killing the werewolf, Lin Chia flipped his palm, and the brilliance of the magic circle flickered again. A silver third-tier magic cube appeared out of thin air in his hand. Directional Summoning Magic. 003 Caregiver Chaos Cube. In the next moment the magic cube floated in the air, spinning rapidly on its own. The space twisted and the cage surrounding Lin Chia was instantly dismantled. His eyes narrowed slightly, and the two straight knives embedded in the air were freed from their restraints, instantly severing the head of the astonished dwarf. Returning to his original form, Lin Chia slowly turned his head, calmly gazing at the one-armed man who had cast the cage upon him. The one-armed man, who had witnessed the entire process, was shaken to his core, fear surging once more. From Lin Chia's awareness of their underhanded tactics to the counterattack, the entire process took no more than 10 seconds. The many bizarre abilities of the opponent were simply too unfathomable. What kind of monster is this boy? He turned around, quickly trying to distance himself from Lin Chia. However, after just 2 steps he felt dizzy. When he steadied himself he realized he had somehow ended up right in front of Lin Chia. Lin Chia held the silver chaos cube in one hand and a straight knife in the other, blood dripping from the blade onto the ground, staining the darkness beneath his feet a deep red. His pale golden eyes narrowed as he slowly raised the bloodied straight knife. No, don't kill me, the one-armed man stammered in terror. Puff. The pale blue blade sliced through the one-armed man's neck, his pleas abruptly silenced, blood splattering everywhere. Lin Chia's gaze shifted away from the corpse on the ground, calmly looking at the empty space beside him, and spoke softly. Did you think that just because you didn't make a move I wouldn't see you? Ding. A second straight knife shot from a distance, piercing through the void beside Lin Chia. The space, once empty, was suddenly stained red, and a gaunt figure slowly materialized. His chest had already been pierced by the straight knife, and the broken steel spike he had tightly gripped clattered to the ground. The look in his eyes as he gazed at Lin Chia was filled with fear and confusion. He could never understand why, despite having completely concealed his presence, Lin Chia could still see him. I'm sorry. Lin Chia expressionlessly withdrew the straight knife, shaking off the blood, and said flatly, I have quite a few forbidden ruins. Your invisibility is ineffective against me. Lin Chia's gaze swept over the bodies sprawled around him, and he waved his hand to return the chaos cube to the asylum, continuing to walk forward at a leisurely pace. Around him there was no one left. The darkness beneath his feet had turned a deep crimson. He's gone mad. Chia has completely lost it. Bai Li Pangpang, observing the scene from above on his golden flying sword, couldn't help but swallow hard, murmuring to himself. After saying that, he turned to look at the bloodthirsty madman Chao Yuan and the distant Qing Yu, who was smiling while dismembering people, his mouth twitching slightly. What is wrong with all of them? Why are they all such killers? Chapter 329. The Arrival of the Murmurs. The Sanctuary above. A hazy illusion suddenly appeared, opening a gap in the real world. A man dressed in a long tailcoat stumbled out, brushing off the dust from his clothes, a flicker of anger flashing in his eyes. Medium. You all forced my hand. He looked down and immediately spotted several figures fiercely battling Old Dog Wu in the activity area of the sanctuary, his brow furrowing slightly. They haven't killed him yet? What are these fools doing? He slowly raised his hands, an illusion brewing between his palms as the wall between reality and nightmare melted away in his murmuring grasp, the void above twisting in an instant. The medium's eyes narrowed slightly like a conductor. He gently waved his hands downward. Boom. Dozens of meteors shattered the barriers of reality, screaming down from above the medium's head, igniting into dazzling flames as they scraped against the atmosphere, carrying terrifying kinetic energy, plummeting toward the sanctuary. A true nightmare, a cataclysm of falling stars. Let it all be destroyed. Patrick Star. The medium sneered, but halfway through his words, his expression changed abruptly. He clamped his mouth shut, his limbs began to tremble uncontrollably as if suppressing something, pain evident in his eyes. At the same time, the dozens of meteors descending toward the sanctuary suddenly went awry, scattering like flowers in the wind, most of them howling toward the surrounding sea, with only a few crashing down on the sanctuary. But even with just these few, they were beyond the sanctuary's current capacity to withstand. The entire defensive force of the sanctuary had been shattered, the missile interception system long paralyzed under Xie Yu's invasion, and with the existing firearms, it was impossible to shoot down such a number of meteors. Several meteors, trailing burning tails, plummeted straight toward the sanctuary. Activity area. Old Dog Wu, who was fighting against the second and fourth seats, suddenly looked up at the rapidly falling meteors, his expression growing increasingly grave. The medium? He actually came to. Old Dog Wu muttered to himself. Suddenly, the figure of the second seat crossed through space, appearing behind Old Dog Wu out of nowhere, his palm slicing downward, directly shattering a large area of nearby space. Old Dog Wu flickered in the darkness, dodging the strike, and with a gentle flick of his finger, the numerous stones scattered around began to darken, shooting toward the figure of the second seat. After forcing back the second seat, Old Dog Wu quickly soared into the sky, the darkness around him rapidly expanding, like a drop of ink diffusing in water, instantly shrouding the entire sky above the sanctuary. In midair, Old Dog Wu extended his hands, his eyes bursting with intense darkness, as if he intended to tear apart the entire sky. He could not allow this sanctuary to be destroyed just like that. Extreme darkness clung to the surface of the rapidly descending meteors, cracks began to spread across them, and as Old Dog Wu suddenly exerted force with his hands, One meteor after another disintegrated in midair. Boom. Blinding flames erupted in the air, only to be swallowed by darkness the next moment. This catastrophe sweeping across the sanctuary was torn apart by Old Dog Wu's hands. Old Dog Wu let out a muffled groan, his face turning pale. The prolonged battle, combined with the energy expended in tearing apart meteors with his bare hands, had nearly drained his mental energy. After all, he was not using an ordinary forbidden realm, but a genuine divine realm. A rift in space suddenly opened above his head. The second seat's figure flashed and fell from the rift, gently clapping his hands in front of his chest. Instantly, the surrounding space condensed into 6 massive transparent cones suspended before him, crashing down toward Old Dog Wu. Thud, thud, thud. These 6 cones slammed down in succession, directly driving Old Dog Wu into the ground, causing the entire sanctuary's floor to tremble. A large circular pit gouged into the ground, dust swirling. Dressed in a blue and white patient gown, Old Dog Wu coughed as he stood up from the rubble, his shoulders and abdomen already stained red with blood, streams of blood trickling down from beneath his disheveled hair. Before he could steady himself, several steel plates from the nearby black iron walls suddenly peeled away, twisting into thick steel columns that slammed toward his body. Boom. The sound of metal clashing echoed violently in the air, the steel columns entwined around Old Dog Wu's body continuously constricting, locking every joint in place, like a steel cage imprisoning him. The fourth seat stood up with a cold smile, spat out a mouthful of blood, and staggered toward the immobilized Old Dog Wu. "Damn it, you're pretty strong, huh?" As the fourth seat approached Old Dog Wu, he noticed the metal columns binding Old Dog Wu beginning to be eroded by darkness. Frowning, he quickly summoned more steel columns from afar, continuously reinforcing the cage around Old Dog Wu. Old Dog Wu's body was wrapped in steel like a rice dumpling. He lifted his blood-streaked head, looking into the fourth seat's eyes, calmly speaking. 3 against 1, and I still managed to take one down. If it weren't for the medium's intervention, you would have died by my hands. The first few seats of the believers are nothing special. The fourth seat's expression darkened immediately. Long before the battle began, Old Dog Wu had seized the opportunity to eliminate the sixth seat in an instant, while simultaneously dealing with the elusive attacks of the second seat and pursuing the fourth seat. If it weren't for the medium triggering a true nightmare, the fourth seat would indeed have been dead by now. So what? You still ended up in my hands. Crack. Before the fourth seat could finish his sentence, a massive bolt of lightning crashed down from the dark sky, and in the blink of an eye, the second seat grabbed the fourth seat by the collar, dragging him into another space. Immediately after, that bolt of lightning struck precisely half a meter in front of Old Dog Wu. A terrifying lightning crater appeared where the fourth seat had been standing, sparks flying. If he hadn't been pulled into another space, he would have likely been struck dead on the spot. 100 meters away from Old Dog Wu, the fourth seat stumbled out of the rift, nearly collapsing to the ground. He looked at the terrifying crater, his face pale as a ghost. Beside him, the second seat slightly raised his head to look at the sky, a grave expression in his eyes. Seems today Wu Tongxian cannot be killed. 7 massive silver pillars plummeted rapidly from the clouds, dense arcs of lightning swirling around the silver pillars, descending upon the world like 7 heavenly punishments. Clang, 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 clang. These 7 silver pillars fell into the sanctuary, embedding themselves several meters into the ground, surrounding the steel-bound Old Dog Wu in the center, the dancing arcs of electricity weaving into a large net, protecting Old Dog Wu within. On top of the pillars, 7 black cloaks fluttered in the wind. Chapter 330, asking them to come back. Medium Squad. The fourth seat's expression changed drastically upon seeing this scene. How could they be here? They must be chasing after Lord Murmurs. The second seat watched the 7 people warily, the surrounding space subtly distorting, always ready to flee. Kill Wu Tongxian? Don't be ridiculous. Even Lord Murmurs can only be hunted by the medium squad. How long could these 2 believers last in their hands? Even if they were both at the Klein level, the difference between them was like heaven and earth. Moreover, the other party was the medium squad, specifically hunting extremely dangerous and malevolent superpowered individuals, akin to the presence of death itself. Who would dare confront them head-on? On top of the silver pillar, A figure in black slowly extended his right hand towards the second and fourth seats. Run. The second seat's hair stood on end, and the space around him instantly cracked open. He grabbed the fourth seat and leaped backward, the space twisting, and in the blink of an eye they vanished without a trace. The figure in black who had raised his arm paused, slowly lowering his arm, and spoke in a hoarse voice. Believer, second seat, fourth seat, lost target, hunt failed. The intertwined lightning net vanished in an instant, and 7 black figures simultaneously leaped down from the silver pillar, standing in front of the imprisoned Old Dog Wu. The central black figure stepped forward and stopped in front of Old Dog Wu. Old Dog Wu's lips curled into a bitter smile. They outnumbered me and bullied me. I had no choice after all, you weren't around. Old Dog Wu sighed helplessly. A black figure behind Bully raised his hand, drawing a straight knife half an inch from his waist. The sharp blade instantly sliced through the metal binding Old Dog Wu, reducing it to fragments. The metal cage clattered to the ground. Finally free, Old Dog Wu moved his body and looked at the one who had drawn the knife, smiling as he waved. Zhang Xiaohua, your knife is still so fast. The black figure kept his head down, resembling a statue, silent. Bully chuckled and said, my knife is fast, do you need to tell me? Look at you, after so many years you've gotten so fat. You might as well change your name to Wu Xiaozhu from now on. Flattering me a bit and you've gotten puffed up? Old Dog Wu shot him a glare but then laughed. Bully laughed too. As they laughed, the two fell silent. In the quiet activity area, a gentle breeze brushed past the black figure, and they stood still like lifeless stones. Old Dog Wu's lips trembled slightly. He lowered his head, tightly clenched his fists, and a look of pain appeared on his blood-stained face. Bully sighed, patting his shoulder. At your age, why are you still acting like a child? They are all watching, they just won't speak. If this continues, you'll lose all face as the vice-captain. Face? What the hell do I need face for? Old Dog Wu raised his head, his bloodshot eyes wide, pointing at the figure behind him, nearly roaring. I don't care about face, Captain. I can give up everything. I just want them back. Tears streamed uncontrollably from Old Dog Wu's eyes, his body trembling uncontrollably. He slowly crouched down, and beneath his messy hair were eyes filled with pain and sorrow. Bully fell silent. After a long while he slowly spoke. They have always been here. It's just that you are not me, so you can't feel it. When you become a medium you will understand. Monitoring the ancient god church murmurs, the hunt is about to begin. Suddenly a black figure behind Bully spoke up, his voice hoarse. Bully turned to look into the distance, and after a moment he also crouched down, softly speaking to Old Dog Wu. We shall go, we need to go. You just stay here and be at ease, understood? Hey. Old Dog Wu raised his head, looking at Bully with pleading eyes. Can I make a request? No. Bully shook his head decisively. Old Dog Wu remained rooted in place. I know what you want to say. Bully said sternly, you cannot go with us. Your task is to stay here in this hospital. But we agreed on this from the beginning, didn't we? Bully looked into his eyes. The two of us must never be in danger at the same time. Old Dog Wu opened his mouth, seemingly wanting to say something, but nothing came out. Bully stood up, putting the hood back on his head. The 7 figures swayed and returned to their respective silver pillars, arcs of electricity dancing between the pillars. Medium Squad Vice-Captain Wu Xiaogo. Bully suddenly spoke. Old Dog Wu's body shook, instinctively standing up and shouting, Here. Stay well in the monastery until that day comes. Blinding arcs of electricity burst forth, and the 7 silver pillars shot into the sky, vanishing in an instant. Old Dog Wu stood alone on the chaotic ground, summoning his courage and all his strength, shouting loudly, Yes. On the silver pillar piercing the clouds, Bully looked down at the disappearing figure, a slight smile on his lips. One day you will walk out of this monastery with your head held high. By then you will be the new captain of the medium squad. I believe you will be stronger than I am. Monastery outskirts. Shin Qingzhu sat alone by the rocks, gazing at the distant monastery engulfed in flames, lost in thought. Suddenly, a brilliant illusionary light burst forth beside him. Shin Qingzhu's eyes narrowed and he quickly stood up. The next moment the figure of Murmurs slowly emerged. Lord Murmurs. Shin Qingzhu spoke respectfully. Murmurs nodded, his gaze falling on the distant monastery, his expression somewhat heavy. The medium squad has arrived. This attempt to assassinate Wu Tongxian has completely failed. We can only minimize our losses. Inform the 2nd, 4th and 5th seats to retreat immediately. After finishing, Murmur's figure once again merged into the illusion, speeding away into the distance, followed closely by a streak of lightning across the sky. The corners of Shin Qingzhu's mouth slightly lifted beneath his mask. Understood. Chapter 331. Life in Danger? A spatial rift opened at the edge of the reef, and the figures of the 2nd and 4th seats quickly emerged. Shin Qingzhu, who was sitting on the reef, stood up and slightly bowed. Junior Shin Qingzhu respectfully welcomes the 2 seniors back from their triumph. The 4th seat looked at the figure wearing a white fox mask with some confusion and turned to the 2nd seat. Who is he? The newly arrived 15th seat, a trusted confidant of Lord Murmurs, the 2nd seat calmly explained. The 4th seat scrutinized Shin Qingzhu for a moment, nodded and did not dwell on it. What about the 5th seat? The 2nd seat glanced around and asked. As soon as the question left his lips, a familiar figure walked out from the nearby woods, covered in dust and scorch marks, but with hardly any wounds. I'm here. The 5th seat spoke slowly. I was just stalling the outer firepower. How did it go inside? Did you kill Wu Tongxian? The expressions of the 2nd and 4th seats stiffened. You didn't kill him? The 5th seat was taken aback. That shouldn't be the case. He was stronger than we imagined and the 6th seat has already sacrificed. The spirit medium team arrived later. There was no way to kill him, the 4th seat replied. So you all ran away? The 5th seat keenly caught the crux of the matter and sneered, so you're cowards. If you had been there, you probably wouldn't have escaped either, the 2nd seat retorted coldly. Regardless, this assassination mission can be considered a failure. By the way, newcomer, I think I just saw Lord Murmurs nearby. Did he issue a retreat order? The 5th seat seemed to recall something and turned to ask. The 2nd and 4th seats turned to look as well. Shin Qingzhu nodded. Lord Murmurs said that the mission to assassinate Wu Tongxian has ended. Just as the 3 of them breathed a sigh of relief, Shin Qingzhu spoke again. However, he has issued a new task. Upon hearing this, the other 3 were taken aback. Another task? What task? Shin Qingzhu took a deep breath and spoke deliberately. Ambush. Master Qin. What? Hearing those last 3 words, the 3 of them widened their eyes in disbelief. Ambush a human pinnacle? Just us? What a joke. Shin Qingzhu spoke seriously. Lord Murmurs received news that one of the human pinnacles, Master Qin, was attacked by a deity on his way back to the demon city and has already sustained serious injuries, his life hanging by a thread. This is his weakest moment. If it weren't for Lord Murmurs being pursued by the spirit medium team, he would have intervened personally. Now Master Qin is on his way back to the retreat to heal, and the only chance to ambush him is us. This is the only opportunity for our ancient God Church and the followers to kill a human pinnacle. Upon hearing Shin Qingzhu's series of statements, the 3 followers were left dumbfounded. Master Qin was attacked by a deity within the Great Xia territory? Seriously injured? Life in danger? The 3 spoke in disbelief. No matter how they thought about it, it was too absurd. Not to mention that there are other human pinnacles stationed. Whether any foreign deities can enter the Great Xia territory, just the fact that a deity specifically ambushed Master Qin is incomprehensible. With Master Qin's abilities, even if he faced a deity, he shouldn't be brought to the brink of death, right? Moreover, why had they received no word about such a significant event? Should we go back and consult Lord Murmurs? The 5th seat hesitated to suggest. Shin Qingzhu shook his head. Master Qin is about to arrive at the retreat. We don't have time. This will be the only opportunity for the followers and the ancient God Church. The 2nd seat narrowed his eyes. Do you dare swear by the soul contract with Lord Murmurs that what you said is true? Shin Qingzhu solemnly nodded, raised 4 fingers and spoke deliberately. I, Shin Qingzhu, swear by the soul contract with Lord Murmurs that what I just said is entirely true. Although I cannot understand the details, I trust Lord Murmurs' judgment. As his words fell, there was no sign of any disturbance from Shin Qingzhu, and the 3 followers fell into deep thought. In fact, with the soul contract in place, Shin Qingzhu could hardly convey false information, as this contract alters a person's power at the level of thought. If Shin Qingzhu were to falsely relay information, it would be tantamount to betraying Lord Murmurs. And all followers under the influence of the soul contract cannot betray. Even so, the second seat still insisted he swear by the soul contract. This way, even if Shin Qingzhu used some clever means, he could not evade the soul contract, so it could be confirmed that Shin Qingzhu was definitely telling the truth. Master Qin is truly in danger. Thinking of this, the eyes of the three brightened simultaneously. If this is true, successfully ambushing a human pinnacle would significantly accelerate the arrival of the Dark Age, and even within the ancient God Church, it would be a monumental achievement. At that time, the rewards for the three of them would reach a terrifying level. Perhaps they could finally break free from the constraints of the soul contract and regain their freedom. The more they thought about it, the more fervent their hearts became. They exchanged glances and nodded in agreement. All right, since it's Lord Murmur's order, we will not fail our mission. The fourth seat nodded heavily. Then the fifth seat seemed to remember something and turned to Shin Qingzhu. By the way, what about you? Shin Qingzhu sighed dejectedly. My power is too weak. For the ambush on Master Qin, I would only hold you seniors back. According to Lord Murmur's instructions, my main task is to observe and learn from the side, just like this operation. The second seat nodded in understanding. After all, ambushing a human pinnacle, even if Master Qin is seriously injured, is not something a newcomer like Shin Qingzhu can accomplish. Observing and learning from the side is reasonable. Good. The second seat's eyes showed determination. Since that's the case, let's prepare. You stay here and don't run around. Shin Qingzhu nodded heavily. The second seat waved his hand, tearing open a spatial rift in front of him. After taking a deep breath, he stepped in with firm and heavy strides. The fourth and fifth seats followed suit, their expressions grave as if they bore the hopes of the entire followers and the ancient God Church on their shoulders. Beside them, Shin Qingzhu removed his mask and spoke solemnly and seriously. Junior Shin Qingzhu wishes the three seniors a triumphant return. Chapter 332. We are your calamity. Several kilometers away from the retreat, a phantom carriage, riding the waves, was racing towards the retreat. Inside the carriage, Master Qin sat in the cabin, gently shaking a teacup in his hand, his brow slightly furrowed. An hour ago he had been leisurely enjoying tea at the best tea house in Huaihai City, chatting about life with the tea house owner. Suddenly he sensed that the hardscape he left at the retreat had shattered, and he knew something was wrong. He grabbed his teacup and hurried back. The distance between Huaihai City and the retreat was vast. Even Master Qin took nearly an hour to travel this distance. Not even a supersonic fighter jet could be faster than this carriage. But Master Qin was well aware that whatever had shattered his hardscape at the retreat was definitely not the work of ordinary miscreants. It was likely a premeditated attack on the retreat. An hour was enough time for many things to happen. At this moment, Master Qin felt extremely anxious, fearing that by the time he returned, the retreat would already be gone. Faster. Master Qin set down his teacup and instructed the young driver again. Master, this is already the fastest. The young driver, gripping the reins tightly, replied with a hint of a sob. Master Qin sighed deeply. Suddenly he seemed to sense something, his brows slightly raised, and he let out a soft He flicked his finger and the teacup shot out of the window, piercing through the hardscape and smashing into a certain void. Bang! The cup shattered a piece of space and three figures were violently ejected. The second seat had already been hit on the forehead by the cup, leaving a large red bump. He covered his forehead, staring at the carriage in shock, his mind racing. Wasn't it said that Master Qin was on the brink of death? How could he still detect our presence? The fourth seat exclaimed in astonishment. The second seat pondered for a moment. Even if Master Qin was severely injured, his perception abilities would still be intact. He saw through our ambush here, so he took the initiative to strike, wanting to cover up the fact that he was injured. The fourth seat suddenly understood. A feigned retreat? Must be. The fifth seat spoke firmly, excitement gleaming in his eyes. Otherwise, why would he throw a teacup at us instead of using other lethal moves? What normal person would use a teacup as a weapon? It seems that the news from Lord EU was indeed correct. The pinnacle of humanity, even resorting to a feigned retreat, must be at the end of their rope. The opportunity to revive the believers is in our hands. He let out a hearty laugh and flew directly in front of the stopped carriage, speaking arrogantly. Master Chen, don't hold on any longer. Meeting us today is a calamity you cannot escape, huh? Inside the carriage, Master Chen looked at the three people in front of him, stunned, and found it laughable. Believers? Have their brains gone haywire? How dare they come to trouble me? He slowly stood up in the cabin, and the hardscape of the carriage rapidly expanded, instantly encompassing a 10-mile radius. The three believers felt the environment change around them. The turbulent sea instantly vanished, replaced by an ancient courtyard filled with the sounds of birds and fragrant flowers. Creak. The door of the carriage slowly opened and Master Chen, dressed in a white robe, stepped out. His gaze swept over the three believers and an overwhelming pressure descended. Since you seek death, I shall grant it to you. Upon seeing this scene, the smiles on the faces of the three believers instantly froze. At the retreat, the front gate. The once intense battle was gradually subsiding, with more and more corpses lying on the ground, and streams of fresh blood flowing over the dark brown soil, dyeing the earth deep red. Lin Chia by Li Pangpang and Chao Yuan. These three, although fighting in their own ways, were cooperating with extreme synergy. Chao Yuan, in a frenzy, was like a berserker charging into battle. As long as he charged in with his head down, he could tear open one gap after another, single-handedly limiting 50% of the enemy's combat power. Bai Li Pangpang, equipped with forbidden items, could fight, finish off enemies, escape, and help Chao Yuan control the battlefield, showcasing terrifying control abilities. And Lin Chia was like a shadowy assassin, mercilessly reaping the lives of the prisoners. The combat synergy among them stemmed from their training camp. Even after more than a year, they still showed no signs of estrangement. Instead, their cooperation had become even tighter. And Qingyu, although he had never fought alongside them, perfectly integrated into their combat system thanks to his almost perverse insight and understanding of the battlefield. Lin Chia pulled a straight knife from a prisoner, his blue and white striped patient uniform already soaked in blood. He wiped the blood from his cheek and calmly scanned the surroundings. Originally over 50 prisoners, only a dozen remained, and most had already lost their will to fight, some timidly retreating. At this point, those with blood and courage, those with strength, had already died at the hands of Lin Chia and his companions. What remained were a bunch of spineless cowards. Seeing that these 4 demonic youths had killed so many, the fear in their hearts had completely taken over, and they had no desire to fight back. Lin Chia, holding the bloodied knife, slowly stepped forward. With each step he took, the prisoners retreated a step, their eyes filled with terror as they looked at him. They had been scared out of their wits. Why isn't anyone charging forward? Lin Chia stopped and pointed to the big door behind him, speaking light. Aren't you trying to break through the door? Don't you want freedom? The remaining prisoners collectively retreated 2 more steps, swallowing nervously, their palms already sweaty with anxiety. A strange, sinister laugh came from their side as the frenzied Chao Yuan approached them step by step, knife in hand. Hearing this sound, the psychological defenses of all the prisoners completely collapsed, each one like a frightened rabbit, shrieking and retreating like a tide in the opposite direction. The bloodthirsty Chao Yuan had become their nightmare. We never intended to escape. Yes. We just saw everyone running this way and wanted to join the fun. I really didn't kill anyone. I was just watching from the side. Really? Don't kill me. Lin, big brother. I only came in for stealing forbidden items. I didn't do anything heinous. I really don't want to die. Crying voices continuously emerged from the crowd. Chapter 333, Jump. Lin Chia's gaze swept over the crowd one by one. He knew that the remaining group had truly been scared out of their wits and had lost all fighting spirit. The prisoners held in this detention center were not all heinous criminals. Many, like in Qingyu, had been sent here for minor, unintentional mistakes. They generally lacked courage and were fine with joining in the chaos, but if it came to a prison break, they really wouldn't have the guts to attempt it. Since they had lost their fighting spirit, Lin Chia didn't want to push them to the brink. He slowly sheathed his 2 straight blades. Chao Yuan continued to grin foolishly as he moved toward the crowd, startling them. Help. Don't kill me. Lin Chia slapped his forehead, a look of helplessness appearing on his face. He almost forgot about this big trouble. Lin Chia turned to look at Bai Li Peng Peng, who immediately understood and pulled out Chao Yuan's chastity. Oh no, the sealing scroll, and tossed it directly to Lin Chia. With one hand holding the tape and the other gripping a straight blade, he swiftly positioned himself in front of the frenzied Chao Yuan. Chao Yuan, it's time to stop. Lin Chia spoke calmly. Chao Yuan dragged his blade forward, step by step, the malevolent aura around him growing denser, his crimson gaze fixed on Lin Chia, seemingly with no intention of stopping. Lin Chia sighed deeply. Alright, let me see how much you've grown this year. Lin Chia wrapped the tape around his palm, narrowing his eyes as he looked at the approaching Chao Yuan, a hint of battle intent flickering in his gaze. In the distance, Qingyu watched this scene, puzzled, and asked, "What are they trying to do?" "Oh, I call this the Chao Yuan Chastity Defense Battle. Quite interesting." Bai Li Peng Peng casually pulled out a bag of barbecue-flavored chips from his pocket and offered it to Qingyu. "Want a pack? Go liven things up." Qingyu hesitated for a moment but eventually accepted the chips and tore open the bag to start eating. Boom. On the other side, Lin Chia and Chao Yuan had already collided, their straight blades creating dazzling sparks as they scraped against each other in the air, the overwhelming malevolent aura completely suppressing Lin Chia. Clang. Chao Yuan struck Lin Chia back several steps with a single blow, then stomped the ground hard, instantly charging toward Lin Chia again, swinging his blade. Lin Chia erupted with magical brilliance, instantly vanishing from his spot and reappearing at the location of the second straight blade suspended in the air. The tape wrapped around his left hand swung downward, directly ensnaring the frenzied Chao Yuan's neck. But this time, the malevolent aura surrounding the frenzied Chao Yuan did not dissipate. Instead, he quickly raised his head and swung his blade toward the sky again. Lin Chia gasped in surprise, his body glowing with a magic circle once more. He transformed into the form of a zhu, several strands of spider silk connecting to the surrounding walls, allowing him to float gracefully into the air, dodging the deadly blade of malevolence. Before Chao Yuan could make another move, the spider silk wrapped in tape had already tightly bound him, completely isolating the malevolent aura from leaking out. The dense spider silk returned to a zhu's body, the magic circle swirling, and he transformed back into Lin Chia. This time the tape binding Chao Yuan was 3 times thicker than before. If Lin Chia hadn't been able to wrap the tape around the spider silk, sealing his movements in one go, it would have been significantly more difficult to bind Chao Yuan with that much tape. Unless he defeated Chao Yuan in direct combat, it would be nearly impossible to subdue him. And defeating a frenzied Chao Yuan was no easy task. Even Lin Chia had to be fully alert. A slight misstep could lead to being counter-killed by Chao Yuan. Meanwhile, Chao Yuan, fully bound in tape, stood up, tugging at the bindings while apologetically smiling at Lin Chia. "I could have controlled it a bit better. I accidentally released too much power this time, so I couldn't rein it in." Lin Chia patted his shoulder. "It's fine." He turned to glare fiercely at the prisoners huddled in the corner, scaring them into retreating further, wishing they could just disappear into the wall. At that moment, Lin Chia sensed something, raising an eyebrow. "The master is coming, we need to go." "Go." Bai Li Peng Peng glanced around. "Where do we go?" "Out the door?" "Going out the door is too slow and we're too far from the sea." Lin Chia shook his head and pointed to the nearby black steel wall. "We'll go out from there." Qingyu was taken aback. "Are you sure?" "Sure." Lin Chia nodded. He scanned the 3 of them, speaking earnestly. "Once the master arrives, none of us will be able to leave. Do you trust me?" "We trust you." The 3 replied in unison. "Then, let's break through together." Lin Chia's lips curled slightly as he dashed toward the towering steel wall. Qingyu, Bai Li Peng Peng and Chao Yuan followed closely behind. Lin Chia reached the base of the wall, golden light shimmering beneath his feet, allowing him to step directly onto the vertical surface, soaring upward like a sharp arrow. Qingyu also stepped onto the vertical wall, effortlessly keeping pace with Lin Chia thanks to the powerful adhesive ability of her lizard genes. Chao Yuan and Bai Li Peng Peng exchanged glances, and with a shout of "Yao Guang," the 2 stepped onto golden flying swords, gliding up the wall and straight to the top. Lin Chia landed on the top of the high wall and leaped up, extending his right hand overhead as he softly chanted. Thunder chariots shake the earth, lightning roars. Clang. Dense arcs of electricity surged from the steel wall. The lightning that was supposed to strike the four directly changed course mid-air, all converging into Lin Chia's palm, forming a blinding sphere of lightning. In an environment that met the conditions for poetry, the sky poet would prioritize utilizing the surrounding environment to achieve the effects described in the poem. Just like when Lin Chia recited poetry in the restroom and water flowed from the faucet, the lightning bursting from the wall would also be prioritized for Lin Chia's control. The intertwining arcs of electricity gathered in Lin Chia's palm, resembling a deep blue sun, allowing the four to bypass the electric net's defenses and land on the edge of the black wall. Standing atop this towering black wall, they faced a sheer cliff. A faint light pierced through the dim dawn, turning the surrounding sea into gold, as the crashing white waves splashed against the cliff, sending golden droplets flying. Ahead lay the black cliff, the vast ocean and the rising sun. The electric arcs danced in Lin Chia's palm, a slight smile gracing his lips as he turned to the three beside him, taking a deep breath. Jump. Whoosh. The four youths leaped from the dark high wall, facing the howling wind, charging forward without hesitation. Chapter 334. Shadows on the Sea Surface. Boom. The massive waves crashed against the rocky shore, producing a thunderous roar as four figures plummeted from the high wall, rapidly descending along the sheer cliff. Just as the four were about to hit the ocean's surface, Lin Chia took a deep breath and spoke again. The great rock rises with the wind, soaring straight up to 90,000 miles. Boom. A fierce wind suddenly arose. The terrifying updraft halted Lin Chia and the others' rapid descent, lifting them forcefully and sweeping their bodies toward the other side of the sea. The waves, whipped by the gale, left long white streaks behind them as they soared like arrows suspended in mid-air, whistling past. Lin Chia's blood-red clothing flapped loudly in the wind. He turned back to look. The colossal structure standing on the island was gradually receding from them. Before them lay the vast and free ocean. Bailey Pang Pang suddenly caught sight of something and turned to look at another cliff. There on the steep wall, stood a man wearing a white fox mask, quietly watching their departing figures. Bailey Pang Pang grinned widely and arrogantly gave the man the middle finger. On the sheer cliff, Shin Qingzhu saw Bailey Pang Pang's gesture, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly beneath the mask. He suppressed the urge to suck the air out and make that fat idiot fall into the sea, huffed softly and turned away. After standing still for a few seconds, he turned his head slightly to gaze at the departing figures. A look of longing appeared in his eyes. He shook his head, a bitter smile forming at the corner of his mouth, and walked alone toward another part of the sea. In the fasting hall, the master's carriage penetrated several buildings and came to a stop at the chaotic main entrance. Master Chen stepped down from the carriage, surveying the surroundings. At that moment the military was clearing the corpses on the ground. He frowned slightly and turned to ask, "What happened?" The commander stepped forward and recounted the situation in detail. Only then did Master Chen's tightly furrowed brows slowly relax. He looked up toward the direction the four figures had left, a slight smile curling at the corners of his mouth. "Forget it, let him go." He brushed his sleeves and turned to walk back into the fasting hall, where a pile of matters awaited his attention. Suddenly he stopped, a look of suspicion crossing his face. "Wait, something feels off, like I've forgotten something." "What?" Yi Fan's eyes widened as he stared at Dr. Li and Master Chen, his expression one of disbelief. "He ran away. You just let him escape like that?" Yi Fan gripped a thick stack of documents, his face turning pale. "Didn't I tell you to keep an eye on him until I arrived to take him?" Master Chen and Dr. Li exchanged glances, both showing awkward expressions. The situation was a bit special at the time and they momentarily forgot about it. He. Just a little accident. Master Chen picked up a cup of tea from the table and handed it to Yi Fan. "Commander Yi, don't be so angry. Have a cup of tea to calm down." Yi Fan maintained a stern face, hesitating for a moment before accepting the teacup and taking a sip. "Tea's good." He smacked his lips and continued, "I've already understood the situation at the fasting hall, but no matter what, Lin Chia must not come to harm. He is the captain of the future 5th Special Team I've personally appointed. I nearly wore my mouth out for these documents. Commander Yi, rest assured." Master Chen spoke up. "From the time they left until now, it has only been a little over an hour. Given their speed, they should still be drifting at sea. If you go after them now, you can definitely catch up. Yi Fan immediately placed the teacup back on the table and spoke seriously. Why didn't you say something so important earlier? Which direction did they run? On the boundless sea. A makeshift ice boat was carrying 4 youths, slowly moving forward with the waves. Lin Chia sat at the bow of the boat, eyes closed, lost in thought. Ding! Suddenly, the straight knife beside him shot out of its sheath, plunging into the sea below. A few seconds later, it emerged from the water, the blade spearing 5 wriggling fresh fish. He grasped the hilt and gave it a gentle flick, letting the 5 fish fall onto the deck of the ice boat. And Qingyu was sitting at the edge of the boat, one hand resting on the side, continuously using frost to reinforce the hull to prevent it from melting. In seawater, ice melts much faster than in air. If he didn't constantly reinforce the hull, the ice boat would likely melt completely within minutes. The fasting hull was located too far from the land, making it impossible to cross the sea relying solely on one person's mental strength. Therefore, they could only take turns, sometimes using in Qingyu's ice boat and other times using Bailey Pong Pong's Yaoguang, cycling through. Chao Yuan picked up one of the fish on the boat, examined it carefully, and after confirming it was edible, called out to Bailey Pang Pang at the stern. String them up. Bailey Pang Pang shrugged, pulled out the Yihua Sanqian sword from his pocket, and with a gentle flick 5 long swords flew out, skewering the fish like bamboo skewers. He then stabbed the sword tip toward his own chest. Sizzle. The firewall on Bailey Pong Pong's body instantly ignited the fish on the swords, and moments later, a delicious fish aroma began to waft across the boat. Chia, why is there an extra one? Bailey Pang Pang asked while distributing 4 grilled fish to the others. Maybe I accidentally skewered one too many while stringing them, Lin Chia replied. And Qingyu took the grilled fish, stared at it for a long time, then sighed and began to eat it bit by bit. They still didn't know how long it would take to return to land. After just experiencing a fierce battle, if they didn't replenish their energy soon, their condition would only worsen. As Lin Chia ate the grilled fish, he suddenly froze, standing up abruptly and looking warily at the sea ahead. Chia, what's wrong? Bailey Pang Pang asked, puzzled by his reaction. Lin Chia placed his hand on the hilt, his eyes narrowing slightly, adopting a posture of alertness. There are people on the sea ahead. It was early morning and the thin mist on the sea created a hazy atmosphere. In the distance, a figure was slowly approaching across the water. The expressions of the other 3 changed simultaneously as they stood up, ready for battle. Just as the 4 were preparing to spring into action, the figure in the mist became increasingly clear. It was a middle-aged man draped in a dark red cloak, a straight knife hanging at his waist. He walked across the rolling waves as if on solid ground, stopping in front of the ice boat. His gaze swept over the group, a slight smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. Very good vigilance. Chapter 335. Captain? Upon seeing the cloak and the straight sword, Lin Chia did not let his guard down for a moment. He remained focused on the other party, ready to act at any time. Although this was standard equipment for the night watchman, it did not mean that others wouldn't use such attire to deceive others. In times like this, it was always wise to stay vigilant. No need to be so tense, Yi Fan said with a smile, introducing himself. I am the Commander-in-Chief of the Great Xia Night Watchman, Yi Fan. Night Watchman, Commander-in-Chief? Hearing these words, Lin Chia's brows furrowed even tighter. How could the esteemed Commander-in-Chief of the Night Watchman suddenly appear in this unknown corner of the sea? Moreover, it seemed he was waiting for them. How can you prove your identity? Lin Chia asked calmly. Yi Fan chuckled and pointed to the side at Chao Yuan. He can vouch for me. Lin Chia, Bailey Pang Pang and Qingyu were taken aback, turning to look at Chao Yuan, who had already put down his straight sword and nodded at everyone. That's right, this is Commander Yi. He was the one who transferred me from the fasting place to Juhua Mountain. If you still don't believe us, you can look at our emblem. Yi Fan pulled out his emblem from his pocket, and beneath the emblem's design the name Yi Fan was neatly written. Lin Chia and the others exchanged glances, their expressions turning strange as they silently sheathed their weapons. This was their superior, the leader of the entire Great Xia Night Watchman, one of the 5 human elites. If a fight had broken out just now, it would have been quite the spectacle. Ahem ahem. So it's Commander Yi. Lin Chia cleared his throat a few times, feeling somewhat awkward. We were unaware of the situation earlier and may have been disrespectful. Yi Fan waved his hand with a smile. Maintaining vigilance is a good thing. Were you just passing by or? I came specifically to find you. Lin Chia's mouth twitched slightly. Hadn't he just escaped from prison? Why was even Commander Yi looking for him? Seemingly sensing Lin Chia's thoughts, Yi Fan shook his head. Don't worry, I'm not here to cause you trouble. Even if you hadn't escaped from the fasting place, I would have released you today. Perhaps I should thank you for keeping the fasting place secure for Master Chen. If that group of prisoners had escaped, it would indeed have been quite a hassle. Hearing this, Lin Chia finally felt relieved. Then Commander Yi, you're looking for me. Yi Fan sniffed the air and smiled. Are you eating grilled fish? Could you spare me a skewer? Let's sit down and chat while we eat. Lin Chia was taken aback. Moments later, 5 figures gathered around the deck of the ice ship, each munching on their grilled fish. Bai Li Pang Pang looked at Lin Chia suspiciously, beginning to wonder if he had some sort of foresight. Otherwise, how could he have perfectly skewered 5 fish? Lin Chia was also puzzled. How had he randomly skewered exactly 5 fish? Moreover, at the time he skewered them, his spiritual sense had only detected 4. Where had the extra fish come from? Suddenly, Lin Chia thought of a possibility and glanced at Yi Fan, who was enjoying his meal, his expression turning strange. Could it be? Yi Fan finished his grilled fish with great satisfaction, let out a long sigh, wiped his greasy hands on his cloak and said, "The taste is good. Now let's talk business." The 4 of them immediately sat up straight. Lin Chia, Yi Fan's gaze fell on him as he spoke seriously. What do you think about special teams? Special teams. Lin Chia was taken aback, seemingly not expecting Yi Fan to ask this question. After pondering for a moment, he replied, they are special groups composed of individuals with exceptional strength, tasked with different responsibilities? Yi Fan nodded, agreeing with Lin Chia's viewpoint. Then how would you feel about being the captain of a special team? Pfft. Cough cough cough. Bai Li Pang Pang nearly choked on a piece of fish, vigorously patting his chest until he finally recovered, staring at Lin Chia in shock. Not just him, and Qing Yu and Chao Yuan were equally surprised, turning to look at Lin Chia simultaneously. Me as the captain of a special team? Lin Chia's voice instinctively rose, bewildered. But, aren't the current special teams functioning well? And my strength is far inferior to theirs. You misunderstood my meaning. Yi Fan said calmly. I'm not saying you should replace any existing team captain, but rather, to form an entirely new special team with you as the captain. Lin Chia seemed to realize something and tentatively asked, the 5th special team? Exactly. Yi Fan nodded. Currently, the number of mysterious occurrences within the Great Xia is increasing, and their strength is growing stronger. It's becoming difficult for the existing special teams to maintain social stability as they did before. Moreover, the current situation in Great Xia is quite unique. We need a new team to fulfill the role of the 5th special team, so the establishment of the 5th special team is urgent. The most crucial aspect of forming a new special team is selecting the captain. But why choose me? Lin Chia couldn't help but ask. I'm just a newcomer who joined the Night Watchman a little over a year ago, and my strength is only at the Chuan level. There should be many Night Watchmen with more experience and greater strength than me, right? Yi Fan smiled and shook his head. Do you know what is most important for a captain of a special team? Strength? Decision-making ability. Lin Chia guessed. No, the most important thing is potential. Yi Fan said earnestly. A special team is composed of the most promising individuals in Great Xia. In the eyes of others, each of them is a genius, a prodigy. They possess powerful abilities and their rate of growth is astonishing. And the captain of a special team must be the best of the best, the prodigy among prodigies. They must have the ability to lead the entire team, to be the one who guides the team's growth, and to be ahead of everyone else. The further and faster the captain goes, the harder the other team members will strive to keep up, and the entire special team's strength will soar at an incredible rate. Ultimately, it will become the top team in Great Xia. Yi Fan looked into Lin Chia's eyes, speaking each word deliberately. And you, Lin Chia, are the most promising young person among all the Night Watchmen in Great Xia. You are the only choice for the captain of the 5th Special Team. Chapter 336. Captain Lin Chia. Lin Chia was left speechless. The three people beside him nodded repeatedly at Yi Fan's words. They understood better than anyone else just how great Lin Chia's potential was. A prodigy among prodigies? Isn't that Lin Chia? Of course you have many issues. Insufficient strength, lack of experience and potential mental health risks. So whether you can actually become the captain is a highly controversial topic among the higher-ups of the Night Watchers. Yi Fan paused for a moment before continuing. So, I'm not asking you to become the captain of the 5th Special Team right now. You need to prove your qualifications to everyone through your actions and time. Moreover, the establishment of a special team doesn't happen overnight. Upon hearing this, Lin Chia's confusion deepened. So what you mean is, to establish a reserve team. Yi Fan spoke slowly. Reserve team? That is, a special team that is not officially recognized by the Night Watchers as a special team. Yi Fan took out a document and handed it to Lin Chia. From a documentation standpoint, this team does not exist. It does not belong to any ordinary team stationed in the city, nor is it part of the special team hierarchy. This team is like a ghost fulfilling the functions of a special team. Whenever a city or uninhabited area encounters an event that the local team cannot handle, it will go there to assist them. Bai Li Pangpang couldn't help but ask, since this team doesn't exist and there are no records about them, how can we prove our identity to the local Night Watchers? Yi Fan shrugged helplessly. Without records there was naturally no way to prove it. If we can't prove our identity, how would they believe us? Chow Yuan frowned and spoke up. A team claiming to be a special team but not listed in the records suddenly appearing would hardly be believed, right? It might even raise their suspicions and they could turn hostile. So the best approach is to avoid direct contact with the local Night Watch teams. Yi Fan said calmly. This is also one of the assessment requirements for the reserve team. Since it is a special team, it must have the ability to handle various situations independently, completing tasks perfectly even under pressure from both sides without relying on any external forces. Only in this way can it possess extraordinary decision-making power under extreme conditions. Lin Chia listened for a long time and then frowned as he spoke. So this reserve team is a ghost team fulfilling the functions of a special team? You can understand it that way. Yi Fan nodded. Once the conditions to become a true special team are met, this reserve team will immediately be promoted to the 5th Special Team, fulfilling the special functions of the 5th Special Team. What conditions? First, the team must have at least 6 members and no more than 9. Second, the team leader, which is you, must reach the peak of the Sea Realm. Third, all team members except the leader must have crossed the threshold of the Sea Realm. Fourth, the team must have experience in defeating Wuliang Realm enemies. Fifth, the team must have achieved significant merit, earning a collective honor of star or above, and this medal must belong to the entire team, not an individual. Therefore, the medal you earned in the training camp does not count. Upon hearing these conditions, Lin Chia fell into deep thought. Among these 5 conditions, aside from the first, the others are all standards that require hard power. Achieving so many at once is not a simple task. So what exactly is the special function of the 5th Special Team? Yi Fan shook his head. This cannot be disclosed right now. The functions of the 5th Special Team are highly confidential, and you will only have the authority to review them once you officially become the captain of the 5th Special Team. Lin Chia hesitated and asked, what if I refuse to become the captain of this reserve team? That is your right to choose. Even if you refuse, nothing will happen to you. Yi Fan smiled as he spoke. However, I brought you out of the mental hospital based on this document. If you refuse, then the document will naturally become invalid, and I can only send you back to the Sunshine Mental Hospital for observation for 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years? Lin Chia's mouth twitched slightly. Could this threat be any more obvious? Lin Chia glanced at Bai Li Pangpang, Chow Yuan and An Qingyu. They were all looking into his eyes, their gazes seemingly filled with anticipation. By the way, I want to ask something. Lin Chia suddenly thought of something. If I become the captain, will I decide the members of this reserve team myself, or will it be appointed by the higher-ups of the Night Watchers? You are the captain, so you have absolute authority in selecting team members. You also have the special right to recruit non-Night Watchers as team members. This means that if you find a non-Night Watcher with great potential, You can directly allow them to skip the review and training stages to become a night watcher, provided they are willing. If you cannot find suitable members, you can also apply to the higher-ups of the night watchers, who will provide a list of highly potential candidates among the night watchers. You have the authority to forcibly recruit any night watcher into the team. Yifan's lips curled slightly. This is just for the reserve team captain. The powers of a special team captain are even greater, far beyond your imagination. Lin Chia turned to look at An Qingyu, who winked at him, smiling silently. Feels like the power to recruit non-night watchers into the night watchers was tailor-made for An Qingyu. And one more thing, I can reveal something to you. Yifan seemed to think of something and spoke again. Lin Chia looked up at him. The functions of the fifth special team are related to what lies beyond the fog. Upon hearing this, Lin Chia's pupils suddenly constricted. What lies beyond the fog? What is beyond the fog? Is it the other countries that have become ruins? Is it the terrifying toxins that cause death upon inhalation? Or the outer gods that lurk between their respective divine realms? Two names suddenly flashed through Lin Chia's mind. Loki Gaia. Unconsciously, Lin Chia's fists slowly clenched, and an unusual light flickered in his eyes. Perhaps this is his best opportunity to come into contact with the outer gods. After pondering for a long time, Lin Chia could find no reason to refuse. He took a deep breath and slowly spoke. All right, I am willing to be the captain.